Good morning, everybody. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes if everyone can get settled. Thank you.
Do you prefer what side?
There's plastic bottles of water?
I know.
Oh my God.
Let me go get mine then.
Yeah. What's this thing do?
Advance the slides. Was it up here?
So just stay in the middle? Oh yeah, sorry, I'm so used to moving. If we can get the board members to go towards the right.
Sit.
What do you think? Oh no. Okay, you start? All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to day 2 of CRRA. My name's Colleen Foster. I'm the conference co-chair with Pauline Martinson. We're so pleased to have you here today. CRRA is a very special organization near and dear to my heart. I've been with the association for the past 8 years and have been able to serve on the board for the past 6 years. Every conference is exciting, new, and innovative. Every conference is inspiring. We had a great first day yesterday. There were amazing technical sessions, really connecting all of the environmental initiatives, connecting the dots in regards to stormwater, resource recovery, climate change, and water conservation. So that was exciting to see our audience expand to not just our recyclers, to other communities that definitely have an impact and have opportunity for collaboration. CRRA is about people giving to the organization, being a part of the organization, being active. CRRA does not sit on the sidelines. People that are part of the CRRA Association are making a difference out in our community. And that's reflective at our conference. The TC luncheons yesterday were very well attended, multiple topics of discussion ranging from organics, climate change, recycling markets, C&D, household hazardous waste. There are numerous opportunities to engage not only at the conference but throughout the year. And I really want to thank those technical council leaders and also thank the people attending technical councils for the first time. And I encourage you to stay involved. I'd also like to thank all of the volunteers that have made this conference so easy and so amazing. So all of the volunteers in this room, as well as the staff that have supported the development of this conference and the success of this conference, I'd like you to stand up, and I'd like everyone to give you a huge applause. I think they're out working. Well, we're having a good time. So we can't do this conference without our staff, without our volunteers, and most importantly, we can't do this conference without our exhibitors and our sponsors. They're helping finance and really make this organization solid. So it's not only an organization with a powerful conference, and it's an organization that is valid throughout the year, that's at the policy table, that's making a difference for our communities and providing the needed education for those new recyclist specialists coming in, or for people that are not even in the industry, but are being impacted by zero waste and recycling and materials management. So I really like to give a hands of applause to all of our exhibitors for participating in the conference, and also to our sponsors. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Pauline. CRRA is not just about an organization that's our association, focused on our association. It's an association that every conference goes to a new community and really highlights that community. So these conferences are not just reflective of what we're doing in our own cities, they're reflective of our host city. Pauline?
Yes, so we've had some really exciting and fun opportunities to really integrate in San Diego. Yesterday, attendees boarded the Aguilita vessel that Captain Charles Moore has toured the bay with some of those attendees and educating really about the incredible work that his foundation is doing. The Aguilita Marine Research Foundation is truly the pioneer to discovering the Great Pacific Gyre and opening our eyes to harmful effects of plastic. So also for the first time, we created a CRRA Gives Back program. And so we had an opportunities for attendees on Sunday to go out and do a little cleanup at the cove adjacent to the hotel. This cleanup was sponsored by I Love It Clean San Diego and H2O Trash Patrol. And we had we picked up 70 pounds of trash just in that little cove there, as well as items from the water on stand-up paddleboards. We also removed 30 pounds of recycling in 2 hours, and we had about 20 of our attendees attend, as well as interested beachgoers that just wanted to help out. So we know that those involved will now have a greater insight to the types of litter that we find and plague our coastlines. Even if there are small little caps, those are detrimental to our marine wildlife, and they plague our city and our coastline. So I know that they're going to take that experience into making further action in the future. So some of you, better people than myself, did not ignore your alarm clocks this morning to jump at the chance to engage in our tours. And so we had the tours around San Diego. They're really the gems of San Diego in both innovation and sustainability. And those included the San Diego Zoo, SeaWorld, Del Mar Fairgrounds with an organics program led by Solana Center. And it's really great to have you guys out there this morning. So thanks for doing that. And I'm glad you could see some of the highlights of our city. So some reminders for today. There's the CRA members meeting at 1 o'clock in the Palm 3 and 4 room. We would love to have you there to hear more about what the organization and where we're headed, and also meet Jenna Abbott, our new executive director, if you haven't. Hear about the new slate of board members and the new officers for next year. And then as the night arrives, we want you to join CRA and CPSC at the award ceremony, which is at 5:45 in the Paradise Ballroom. And right after that, we're going to be honoring CPSC, their 10-year anniversary in that same room. And of course, we cannot forget to see what NCRRA has cooked up at the NCRRA Players, which is at 8:30 back in this room. All right.
That's the best session. Well, we were talking about thanking our sponsors, but we'd like to take a formal moment to thank each and every one of our sponsors. Again, our sponsors make it possible to hold this amazing conference and event, and also to hold other programs throughout the year. Our new certification program, which was just launched here in San Diego this week, our sponsorships are really helping us move that certification so we can take that at greater national and international levels. So what Pauline and I are going to do, we're going to actually be announcing our sponsors. And when your name is announced, we'd like you to please go over towards the right, my right, your left, and take a photo with our board. Again, your support and contribution helps our organization, the organization of you, actually make a difference at a state level and greater level.
Okay, I'm proud to announce the first sponsor, CRA's President Circle and presenting partner, which is Cal Recycle. All right.
So we have about 50 amazing sponsors. So if I can ask everyone to please hold your applause to the end. Thank you. Our CRA Gold sponsors, the first one is Republic Services.
City of San Diego.
Stop Waste.
And those are our gold sponsors. Thank you.
Thank you. Our CRA silver sponsors are Allen Company,
Athens Services,
Cascadia Consulting Group,
California Refuse Recycling Council,
Economics,
City of Fremont,
Global Disposal, Inc.,
HF&H Consultants,
Marin Sanitary Service,
Paint Care,
R3 Consulting Group,
Recology,
San Diego International Airport,
the County of San Diego,
South Bayside Waste Management Authority,
Stanford Recycling Center, PSSI,
Tetra Tech,
Waste Management.
Zinker Recycling.
Okay, those are our silver sponsors.
Our CRA bronze sponsors, Burtech,
City of Chula Vista,
City of Livermore,
Mojave Desert and Mountain Recycling,
City of Napa,
EDCO,
Napa Recycling,
Paula Band of Mission Indians,
City of Santa Cruz,
Salinas Valley Solid Waste Authority,
SCS Engineers,
San Francisco Department of the Environment.
Waste Resources. And those are our bronze sponsors. I'd also like to mention one more gold sponsor, the City of San Diego.
Okay, and these are our CRA friend sponsors, Mount Diablo Resource Recovery,
South Bay Recycling,
Ware Disposal,
California Association of Local Conservation Corps.
okay, and then next, our CRA Reciprocal Benefits Partners Award,
California Product Stewardship Council,
Californians Against Waste,
and Keep California Beautiful. Everyone give a big round of applause. Thank you.
Not too bad, right? Okay, let's give a few seconds to wrap that up, and then we're going to introduce our next plenary speaker. So Bob, if you want to head over here, he's up. So Bob Kenney, I'm delighted to introduce. Bob Kenney has worked for 18 years in Nova Scotia's environment as a senior waste resource officer. And if you haven't known, Nova Scotia has created a ban on organics. So he's here to really share lessons learned and some of the practical realities about the ban. You know, it is timely. California is looking to do something similar. So I'm happy to introduce Bob Kenney to talk about this ban as well as measuring diversion through disposal per capita.
Thank you, Colleen. Thanks for the invitation to come to California. It's my first time. You have a beautiful state. There's a reason why there's 40 million people here. It's gorgeous. We did some beach hopping from LA to San Diego on the way down, and man, you've got a great place. So do we. We have lots of beaches. Nova Scotia is a very pretty place. I would recommend coming in July, August, or September when it's a little warmer. We get a little winter up there, and I don't mind if I get another invitation when it's January or February. I am a polite Canadian, but I love to talk trash. It's my favorite subject, and you're going to hear passion from me. I have to go really fast, fast and furious, like Hollywood movies, because we only have so many. Heidi has to speak, and I got to condense 20 years in 20 minutes, so here you go. By the way, I do like, and I thinking outside the landfill is kind of a cute little saying that we use. So I better look at this slide. We're on the east coast of Canada. If you move Nova Scotia to the west coast, believe it or not, Halifax would lie a little further south in Portland, Oregon. We're not way up in the Arctic. We're pretty moderate. We have a population. We're small, but we have a Halifax with about 450,000 people, small towns, rural and regional municipalities. So we have people that had to come out with solutions in the rural areas and solutions in the densely populated areas. It can be done. And in the 70s, we were like a third world country, like many other areas, frankly, of North America. We had hundreds of dumps, open burning dumps, and this is what it looked like. Our disposal rate was 1,000. I had to do all my conversions into imperial, 1,631. I guess I could have rounded it off. That's residential. IC&I is industrial, commercial, and institutional, basically mostly commercial and institutional, and construction and demolition. So we look at all of our disposal in those three categories. We had 20 open burning sites back in 1996. Things changed in 1996. We had a strategy. We had a goal of 50% diversion by 2000. We were the only Canadian province to reach that. I will talk about what diversion is and what it isn't and what disposal is and disposal isn't later. It's complicated. I could speak probably for 2 hours just on that subject alone. We had increased disposal standards. That means we had fewer landfills, better environmental protection. Now, regional cooperation at scale, this is going to cost you more. It'll cost more, and I'll speak to that, but there's lots of economic benefits and environmental benefits with it. We saw regionalization. We saw municipalities cooperate at certain levels, not completely as what we expected. And then there was a lot of economic opportunities. I'm going to speak to that. Lots of jobs, lots of businesses, and lots of innovation going on, and California is probably the most innovative place in the world, and I'm sure if you do that, the same thing will happen here. So at the heart and soul of our strategy, we banned, it's illegal technically to throw away the banana peel in Nova Scotia, but we banned corrugated cardboard newsprint, we banned a bunch of containers, plastic, metal, and glass, some high density and low density plastics, including bags, although I must admit, and I'm going to speak to specifically film, it's our lowest capture rate, although I think we have one of the highest capture rates in the world in it, it's still one of our lowest capture rate, might be at 10%. Used tires and waste paints were banned, and then compostable organic material, leaf and yard waste and food waste, we banned it over 20 years ago. You got to think about this in the Middle Ages. I mean, when cities moved, for health reasons, they moved things outside of the cities because you had the plague, you had all kinds of health issues. And they've been landfilling food waste since then, essentially. There's lots of composting going on, and then after the World War, things changed with plastics, and we got more affluent, and there was more and more waste. And then we actually changed the paradigm, which I don't think our leaders, frankly, I give them a lot of credit, but I don't think they realized what they were doing at the time. But we were following Germany and the Netherlands, which had done it about 5 years earlier. And we banned electronic waste from disposal. So this is in metric, but just generally, we're on the far right, Nova Scotia. This is our disposal rate per capita. Nova Scotia is far below the other provinces. My friends from BC, they're pretty good. They're the next ones up. And we measure our success often in disposal rate for a number of reasons, and you'll hear me talk about that. So the results to date, all residents have curbside waste and recycling collection. Nearly 95% of residents have organic collection. All condos are serviced with 3-stream. Recycling composting is increasing in apartment buildings. We have the same challenges. We've made a lot of progress. When I was at the session the other day, I was I knew exactly what they were talking about. A lot of good best management practices, a lot to learn. Always a challenge. We have an Enviro Depot system for beverage containers, which is kind of acting like these resource centers, if you will. And they're regulated to collect beverage containers and paint. But lots of them collect the electronics, which are regulated, more than half of them. A lot of them get into metal, and a lot of them have recently get into textiles. And I have a few slides on textiles, which is really interesting. And one of the reasons why we did this, the province did this, because there are a lot of jobs in this sector, and there's over 4,000. That's equivalent to, I multiplied by 40, what's that? 16,000 jobs equivalent to California in just the solid waste sector. These are the numbers. The graph. Surprisingly, we were doing this for a long time, and we had numbers of 2,500. We eventually got to 3,000. Then we started looking at the reuse sector, and we started paying attention to textiles and upholstered furniture. If you're repairing furniture, you're not landfilling. If you're repairing your computer, if you're doing the repair industry, we weren't paying attention to that. So we decided to call up the textile brokers and shredders, and we asked them about their job numbers. That blue area is by far the largest employer in the province when it comes to solid waste management. There's 600 jobs. Multiply that by 40. What's that? 24,000 jobs, did I get that right? And that would equivalent to California. It's an amazing sector, and we're only capturing 15% of that sector. And we need a lot more attention in that area. We have haulers and Enviro depots. Believe it or not, our composting is something like 2% when it comes to employment. So our employment is elsewhere, but composting is our largest diverter in the province. So we have now 19 central composting facilities spread around the country. It's very local. You don't transport this stuff far. We have lots of rural areas, so it's not so difficult. But in the urban areas, certainly odor is a challenge. I'll speak to that. So this is what it looks like. You put your cart out at the curb. Generally, every week in the summertime, because we have summers just like this. This is what our weather's like. So you got to have it at least every week. Generally in the fall, winter, in the spring, I don't know exactly how it works, but every second week is we can do it because it's cold enough, so we don't have to worry about that. But you would have to do it every week if you were doing it here. This is just a quick slide on commercial sector. Generally, the restaurants don't want dirty carts. I'm sure you've seen this in San Francisco. They come, they give you a new clean cart, they take away your organics. So we started seeing in-vessel composting systems. They had to respond to the ban. Most of the municipalities, they partnered with the private sector, they built it on their own. They built, that first slide on the top left was the first in-vessel composting system in the Americas, outside of Germany and the Netherlands, and it was about 1994, I think, or 1993 they built that. You can have windrow composting in rural areas. That guy that's dumping that load of organics, they learned a lot about odors. There's a lot of issues with odor. They had to build a garage around that so that when they're dumping, the odor didn't escape. There's a lot of lessons learned. I could speak another full day on that alone. There's a lot of lessons learned. And then we have some in-vessel containers that technology has changed a little bit. Halifax, our largest municipality, has in-vessel systems, just larger, simple as that. They manage about, thinking Imperial, about 50,000 tons a year. Now, instead of all those open burning dumps, we have 7 municipal solid waste landfills lined like this, just like you have here. Frankly, we have too many landfills. There's overcapacity. And landfill operators that want to make a buck are not exactly that supportive of diversion because that's their money coming in. So that becomes a challenge, particularly when they're municipal and they've invested in this and they go and they talk to people that are looking at more diversion. We have too many recycling facilities, frankly. It was almost a rural initiative in some parts of the province to have jobs. So they started some recycling facilities. We should frankly have 1 or 2. In British Columbia, where they started printed paper and packaging, EPR, which Heidi might allude to, they have closed all of their material recycling facilities for containers. They have 1 for a population of 4.5 million and a geography that's like 10 times the province of Nova Scotia. So they've really rationalized that down to a scale. And just like here, there's lots of jobs in this area, lots of different products that are produced. Those carry-out trays, actually, I don't know if you know the famous Tim Hortons in Canada, but in Nova Scotia, they recycle cardboard and they make those for the carry-out trays from all the way from the east coast to the west coast of Canada, and they're distributed by recycling cardboard. Mulch made for newspaper, recycling paint, you know, everything and everything. We have artwork. That's made of tin cans. That's an amazing artist that did some work. It's beautiful. And we have our entrepreneurs. I mean, look on either side of that. That's Snow. This guy is pretty, you know, God bless him. He's working hard, and we do all of this in the wintertime too. Doesn't stop. So at the heart and soul of this is disposal bans. Our regulations are specific to landfills. We do not go to the generation level at a provincial level. We leave that to the municipalities, and that's certainly a point of debate. But we have funding for them for that sort of thing, and I'll talk about that. 90% of our compliance was education. It was just education, continually to change behavior, whether it be seatbelts or whatever it is, but that's what they focused on. There is curbside compliance going on. We've done a little bit of, we haven't done that at the provincial level, but certainly municipalities have done that. They've made it easier with ClearBag, and I have a slide coming up on that. I've even written some letters to some of the larger generators. About 20 years ago, some of the supermarkets, some of the large corporations, when some municipalities were complaining to us, there was way too much cardboard coming in, we sent them a letter, said it was banned. One time we went into a smaller municipality, we fined some of the corporate guys. Within a week, it was all gone. It doesn't take much to do that. But there's a lot of consternation when you start fining and you start using the stick. That's why they focus on the carrot, the carrot, the carrot, the carrot. We've been doing that for a long time. The stick is occasionally coming, but now we have a plan to potentially bring out the stick, and I'll talk about that. A ban, if it was banned and we wanted to get everything out, it's not an absolute. If it was an absolute, you'd go bankrupt. If you had to get every atom, every molecule of the stuff up. So where is that line? Where do you draw that line? So we compare it to a speed limit. You're going 55 miles an hour. 65, the cop might not look at you. 70, he might look at you, might give you a warning. You know, the more material are there, the more likely you are to get a fine. That's what it's pretty much like. There's no real great science to this, hence why a lot of people haven't necessarily adopted it. Certainly the targets were the high speeders, if you will, the grocery stores, the restaurants, the cafeteria. They were pretty easy to identify, and we got those out pretty quickly. We're down to still small mom and pops and residential where we still have lots of challenges, and you will see surprisingly how much food waste, remarkably, we have in the landfill. But we are looking at, compliance is a challenge. Right now, we do have some data. I actually should have brought a slide where we actually put up a graph. We haven't even released it to the municipalities that shows them all how much they're collecting in garbage per household for recycling, organics, and garbage. And those that have the higher black tubes, we're going to be talking to probably within the next year. We really haven't done that. After 20 years, I think it's time, which we see some acceptance now for that level of compliance. Commercially, that's tough. You can't go into a small town and where all the commercial and say you have an awful lot of garbage. For the rural areas, it's simpler. So we look at regional data when it comes to commercial. We have waste audits. You're going to see some results, and they've been very, very helpful to us from a policy perspective. We're focusing on, even though we look at the recycling numbers, we are definitely focused on what is still going into the landfill. And then I'm going to talk about best management practices because I sit on a group, a provincial group, where we're part of the Canadian Councils of Ministers of Environment, and we did a disposal ban study. Nova Scotia was studied as part of that. Vancouver was studied, some European jurisdictions, and a couple of American jurisdictions. They reviewed them for best management practices. They're not that crazy. I mean, if you're recycling and composting, a lot of these are best management practices you typically use. That is, you should have, and if you want to meet the spirit of the ban, you should have curbside organics and recycling. I'm going to talk about clear bags from garbage. That was a bit of a, we did a lot of work on with the bans. We moved the needle, and then when clear bags came along, the needle moved again, and I'm going to have a conversation about that. Curbside user pay, if you want to adopt that. There's no doubt about that increases diversion. In some jurisdictions, they don't do it in Nova Scotia, but landfills have contracts with the haulers that are very specific, that you have to have contracts with your generators, and you have to sign on the dotted line that you're doing your due diligence, and however that contract is written. We haven't adopted that, but we're going to put it out to the municipalities that are not doing well and say, here's a bunch of best management practices, tell us which ones you're going to check. The hauler then has to have a contract with a generator, landfill inspections. There's a lot. The municipalities are doing those around the province, and there's good best management practices there, and with follow-up. But we want to make it, of course, right across the board. And another one that was suggested is the municipalities perhaps should pay for apartment recycling and organics and leave the apartment to pay for garbage. There's many more. I can't even release the study. It hasn't been released. Maybe in another probably 6 months, but we've been taking the data and putting it into our system to move forward. We do have a stewardship agency, if you will. It was established in regulations, not for profit. It's run by a board of directors. It administers a fund and some of the programs, and this is where it gets a little interesting, and I think it was one of the best decisions the province has made. So they administer the deposit refund system and the tire system. Excess revenues from those systems, although some people have told us it's illegal, but the industry hasn't come back to change that. Excess money goes to the municipalities based upon how much they're no longer disposing. There's a bit of a formula, but the lower your disposal rate, the more money you get. It's equivalent to, in American dollars, California, 5 times 40 is about $200 million a year that the state would potentially be giving you. It's about that much money. They also have separate funding for education, so they have contracts with the municipalities, and they keep some standards, which is helpful, because municipalities do differ in what they accept and how they communicate, so they're trying to standardize that around the province, and that's really helpful if you want to do television commercials that are broadly applicable to everybody. They do compliance at the municipal level, which is funded, and there's a lot of great work. I'm going to speak to it about some promoting value-added manufacturing, some research that they also fund. We do have, and Heidi's going to speak a lot about this, we do have industry stewardship programs. We have regulated ones, and the material is banned from disposal, and the regulated industry likes the bans. They like the fact that municipalities and others have to work with them to get the material out of the landfill. They actually promote it if they're going to be regulated. So we have regulated programs for beverage containers and tires, which are really prescriptive. They were made 20 years ago. It says this is exactly what you should do, industry. Actually, it's not even industry. This is how the program will run. The industry is not even involved. So we've all evolved, and now we have extended producer responsibility programs for paint, used oil, and electronics in Nova Scotia. We have some voluntary programs. The dairy industry pays municipalities directly to recycle their milk cartons. Dairy industry was localized in Nova Scotia. We could do that. We have some, the pharmaceutical industry, we have some voluntary programs for the sharps and the outdated drugs. It's a reasonable program, but just like any other voluntary program, it's not a lot of promotion. They don't have to put a lot of money into it. But if someone calls up, where can I bring this? You can tell them any pharmacy in Nova Scotia will and has to collect them. That's for the people that are more in tune to this. We have some agreements with the newspaper industry and telephone directories. They give us some free advertising, but newspapers are dying, and that's changed a lot, and certainly the telephone directories are kind of gone. Now, interestingly enough, we went out to consultation on a whole host of other EPR programs like printed paper and packages, mattresses, carpet. Back in 2014, there was consternation from particular groups that fought hard. And as a group, if you want EPR, you've got to fight hard for it. There are forces on both sides. There are good reasons to fight it on both sides, but you have to get behind whoever it is here if you support that. So our government said to municipalities, if you want this so much, if you want printed paper and packaging so much, if you want the industry to pay for recycling, give us a proposal. Because frankly, they were hearing different views from different municipalities. It was confusing the province and saying, you're telling me this is good, but I have all kinds of municipalities over here telling me it's not so good. And there are pros and cons to the different systems, and it's really complicated, so it's really hard to get a consensus. But if you were told that industry could pay for your entire recycling program, however, in British Columbia, they took it a step further, and the industry runs the programs. They collect the material. They pay for it all. And for those people that have built recycling programs over the years, that's a hard baby to give up. And so we got people, surprisingly, we were thinking, oh, don't you want this paid for? Isn't this what you wanted? But then there was a bit of a backlash. We were a bit surprised. So anyway, in the end, the provincial government said, okay, municipalities, you just kind of get your act in order, figure out what the consensus is. Although we measure disposal, we try to measure diversion. We can measure organics because we are the regulator for the facilities. So we divert about 145,000 tons of organics. That's the number one item by far, as you can see by the numbers. We have about 110,000 tons of CRD. I'm going to get into that in a slide. Really fascinating. We still have another 100,000 tons to go. Organics, we think we have another 70 or 80,000 tons to go. About 110,000 tons of paper. Most of that is in the private sector. It's really hard to get the information. That's why when you're looking for recycling rates, challenging when it comes to the commercial and private sector, and they don't even want to give you the numbers, of course, for different reasons. There's 25,000 tons of residentially collected containers. That's our curbside containers. Look how they pale in comparison to CRD, from a weight perspective. I'm not saying from an environment perspective. CRD, paper, and organics. We have 28,000 tons of tires and beverage containers and paint and electronics. We got a number from the textile industry. They were good. We told them we wouldn't release the numbers individually, but we think about 8,000 tons of textiles are being diverted in Nova Scotia. We did a waste audit. We have 30,000 tons in our waste stream. And it's exactly the same ratio as in the United States. We're collecting 15% of this material. I have a whole slide on that. I'll talk about it. There's a lot of material we don't track and you don't track. There's scrap metal, of course. There's pallets that are being diverted. You don't know how much you're diverting. Carpet, the carpet industry, even in Nova Scotia, you can pay a little more and you can send it. It'll go down to Georgia for recycling, but we're not tracking that. We don't know what that number is. Backyard composting, how the heck are you going to know who's backyard composting and what that number is? Carburetors, who are using carburetors. And factory to factory diversion, on and on and on and on and on. So when it comes to recycling rates in the commercial sector, we don't have a lot of faith in them. I'm not being critical. It's just the data is practically impossible. Then you're going to get into arguments that this factory was already diverting this material. It never went to the landfill. And this factory over here is just starting, so it should be included. And my experience and what we're saying in Canada is that we're certainly, from a holistic standpoint of CRD, commercial, and residential combined, we're looking at disposal rates. But certainly individually at a household level, residentially, recycling rates are terrific, and we have that data too. And we have about 415,000 tons to go, and I'm going to speak to this. This is the interesting slide. We banned organics 20 years ago. We're the number one diverter, certainly in North America, on organics. It's our number one item in our municipal solid waste stream. However, that pie, remember, we're 50% lower, so that's 50% lower than just about everyone else to begin with. About less than half of that is food waste. So we used to be at a 30% food waste disposal rate. We're probably in the 12% range now. A lot of that is paper, which frankly in our next waste audit is going to go into the paper stream. It's the first audit I've seen where paper is number 3, plastics is now number 2 in the province, and from a volume perspective, plastic is probably the largest. Textiles blew us away. Remember when you divert so much plastic and so much paper and all that material is banned in organics, the smaller segments get bigger as a percentage. So special care waste, diapers, 7% of our municipal solid waste stream. Again, it's a much smaller pie. We've diverted a lot of the organics and the paper and whatnot. Paper, that's the bread and butter when we started, so we've gotten really good at that, but there's still a ways to go. So we're focusing now, we're still focusing on diversion, which is the number 2 bullet, but we're certainly focusing with municipalities on efficiencies, and we're working with them to do an efficiency study. Efficiency is about scale, and scale is about putting less energy in collecting and managing these materials. That's good. Less energy means less GHG emissions. So from that perspective, scale is good. We've seen an increase in businesses, and we're still trying to increase that, the solid waste sector jobs. I'm going to talk about some adoption of best management practices and more research, some of which I think you'll find actually quite amusing. So, in 47 of our 50 municipalities, you must put your garbage loose in a clear bag. And I know that there's a couple of California municipalities that do that already. It started in Prince Edward Island about 15 years ago, and they adopted it in Nova Scotia because they felt it was a way of enforcing the bans. It feels a little George Orwellian when you first start it. You're allowed a privacy bag. The good thing is, if someone complains that you want to hide some things, but the good thing is, if you are a recycler and a composter, you do not need more than 1 bag. So the people that complained were quite silent. They were silent pretty quickly. You would say, well, why are you objecting? Well, I don't want people to see my garbage. Well, are you recycling and composting? Well, yeah. Well, why do you need more than 1 bag? And then there was just silence. And I was shocked. I know we're polite Canadians and we're obedient, but I was still shocked of the response. I thought it was a little weird to begin with, but it's, honest to God, if you talk to the municipalities, they said it was one of their easiest things to do. It was a no-brainer was the answer. It is hard, perceptionally wise, I get it, but it was remarkable. It moved the needle by 20 or 40%, and we were already high. So it's quite something. We've seen a corresponding decrease in disposal, and for the most part it applies in the residential and the commercial sector, except in Halifax. The lobby groups for the apartment buildings beat them back for now, because the apartment owners, and rightfully, the landlords didn't, you can't hold your tenant's hand and go, you know all about this, tenant's hand and divert the material. So they felt that that was too much, but I suspect that will fall eventually. Lots of research. Kitty litter, I should actually say cat litter. I think kitty litter is a brand name. Believe it or not, cat litter, in our numbers now, is 2% of our municipal solid waste stream. I know. That's a lot of clay and a lot of paper, but we've diverted so much. Again, some of those categories are getting big on us. A lot of cats, and I'm sure it's the same here. A lot of weight. We've had a couple of composting facilities that have been taking cat litter for 20 years. But when you talk to other municipalities, the sky's falling, there's disease and all that sort of thing. Prince Edward Island's been doing it for 20 years. We just had another municipality adopt it. We have no evidence to suggest that there's an issue, but perceptional issues like doggy do or anything like that. But kitty litter is if you want to get a weight down, you include kitty litter. Public bin standards, we've done those. You can go on the Divert Nova Scotia site. We thought that was helpful because public bin, you know this, getting good public bin separation is really important, but it's hard. So we set some standards of color coding and shape and signage and whatnot, and we even provide the signs for free that anybody wants to. Divert Nova Scotia does that, so that we can try to get some sort of standardization. Been lots of innovation in that area. You have to have your garbage container bigger than the rest, or you're going to get cross-contamination. That's definitely a lesson learned. We've done some work on mattresses and carpet. We're watching you guys. You guys are the leader in this area. We certainly know that this can be recycled. We were in Georgia to see where all this was recycled, but it didn't pass the sniff test yet in EPR. In Nova Scotia, we'll see if that moves forward. Composting, a lot of work on making that more efficient. We're still, in my mind, in first-generation composting. Even the Germans, you know, they're leaders in the world. I still think, from an aerobic perspective, there isn't good models that still capture the heat and the carbon dioxide that's being wasted. We're still a little bit, in my mind, in the dark ages. Sure, you can do anaerobic. Anaerobic's very fickle. It's great. You can get that methane. If it works well, that's great. Anaerobic can be terrific. So that takes care of the energy. And certainly from a marketing perspective, we're a little surprised. We just actually had, after 20 years, it's kind of sad to say, a summit with our farmers. And I was really quite shocked when we had the agronomists there that the farmers, these were dairy farmers, it could be different for other types of farmers, did not understand the biology of their soil at all. It was quite remarkable. They had some farmers in Ontario come down that have been doing this and showing that when you add compost, you can reduce your fertilizer, you can reduce your insecticides. You have this whole population below the soil that's working really hard. So we're just getting there, and actually what we heard from them too is they actually want less mature compost. So that got the composting facility's attention because the more you have to mature it, you lose nitrogen. So they were like, oh, we want some more nitrogen in it. We don't have to worry about, we want more bugs in it. We're okay at the less mature stage, which was a really big eye-opener. After 20 years, we're just learning this. CRD I'm going to talk about right now in textiles, so I can get fast. I'm sure I'm running out of time. Construction renovation, remember I told you we fund municipalities according to how much they divert? So Halifax passed a bylaw that the industry has to divert 75% of the construction demolition. We're not talking rubble. You can make your numbers look really good with rocks and rubble. I'm going great. This is wallboard, wood, and asphalt shingles. That's what we're talking about here. So they had to come up with creative ways. So they did. The same lady I was just talking about that brought the farmers into composting, she actually did a work on cow bedding. I was talking to her one day, and we were saying, she knew that the farmers needed more wood, they needed more bedding, and we were saying we had lots of wood in the construction and demolition industry. She said, that's great, let's do this. And I said, well, we're looking to do asphalt shingles and wallboard. I said wallboard, and her eyes just lit up, and I said, what is it? And as an agronomist, she said, I work with the farmers. Wallboard contains calcium and sulfur. Calcium stops the mastitis from forming on the udders of cow, who knew? So they actually now have a cow bedding produced from wallboard and wood. And even composite wood, and that's a whole discussion about what is actually in composite wood is not as bad as most people think. And so that's now a budding industry in the province. Asphalt shingles, the guy figured out, sure, people have chopped up, oh boy, asphalt shingles, I got it really fast. Now they're breaking it into two products. The great thing about what he did is he sends it, the grid on top of the shingles, and it makes the specification for the payment. Normally asphalt shingles don't. I'm gonna have to skip the amendment. You can add wallboard to compost, and on and on. Textile prices declining over the last 30 years. Consumption has tripled. We all know we're buying. Production has significant environmental impacts. Charities are inundated. We have rural charities in our province that were getting donations. They had to throw them away because they had so much. That's how much we have. And we're only capturing 15%, 15 to 20% diversion rate. Textiles, it reduces municipal costs. I heard the conversation today. If you get them to divert more textiles, you're saving yourself collection costs. You're saving yourself disposal costs. You're saving yourself transfer costs. Why wouldn't you buy into that? It provides funding for charities. It's great. It has environmental benefits. Actually, textiles has, like I said, a large environmental footprint, even from a GHG perspective. So it's a great thing to recycle. Increase waste diversion. It avoids environmental impacts. You get lots of jobs in the sector, like I talked about. So this was from Savers. They send it over to Africa, Asia, and other countries. They sell it in markets. It's a bit controversial. Some people have a difficult time with the private sector making good money off of this. Socially, they have conscious-wise. But that's a whole discussion I'd love to have, but that would take a whole new session. And then you have, like in California, they shred up textiles, and they do make products but we need to develop that industry with the auto industry. We need a lot more pull in that, for sure. We need third-generation composting. We need disposable diapers. We need plastic film. Plastic film, we're only collecting 10% of it. It's the #1 item in our waste stream from a plastic perspective. It is 50% of our plastic packaging. It's huge, and we're only capturing a little bit of it. So how to reduce diversion costs? We're doing that efficiency. End-of-life plastics also, maybe not just packaging. What about products, toys, and whatnot? Really quick, this graph, Nova Scotia's on the right. Stats Canada came up with this, and they were saying, you're actually generating less. And we were like, no, we're not generating less. I'm sure we're not generating less. You're missing it. It's because Stats Canada measures diversion in the solid waste sector. A lot of this, like textiles, is not a solid waste industry, so they're not counting it. And you'd be shocked at how much you're missing once you get going. Lessons learned, it's going to cost generators more. It costs municipalities more. That's it. You can't sugarcoat that. But there are lots of economic benefits to that. There are collectors and processors or recyclers that create jobs that are doing great things, and they pay municipal taxes. But the benefiters got to stand up. And when you're doing these regulations and you're a benefiter, you're in industry, and you're making money in this, you got to stand up when these things come out, or else the naysayers will certainly win the day. Composting challenges, odor, costs, and participation. Talked about that already, could talk all day. Stewardship model has evolved from prescriptive to extended producer responsibility. Resistance to change, you know the whole gambit, but behavioral change is possible. We've done it. Lessons learned, the waste stream continues to change. Many industry players are now actually receptive. We actually have allies. Years ago, the hand was up, go away. We actually have really good corporate leaders coming to us and saying, what can we do? Which is quite a change. We still have lots against. Stakeholder generator, you know this, engagement is really important all along. Disposal bans are a significant stimulus for the change. The resource economy is important, like I mentioned, that we're not tracking. It's hard to track, and disposal rates are a better indicator from our perspective of overall performance. Recycling rates keep doing that in the household sector. That's great, we need them too, but from overall perspective, it's challenging. And that's it. Thanks so much.
So we're going to actually have an opportunity for questions. We're going to have 2 mic runners, so if you will raise your hand or go towards the mic runners. Thank you.
Where's the mic?
We have one here. Colleen?
Hello, and thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
I have a question about one of your earlier slides. You had your entrepreneur with his shopping cart had liquor and wine bottles. Now, my question is, in Nova Scotia, is the beverage container deposit refund program, does that include wine bottles and liquor bottles?
It includes everything essentially but milk. It includes all the waters, all the juices. And actually, that was one of the reasons why we didn't see as much industry flack. It was level across the playing field. And ironically, we charge 10 cents on a beverage container in Nova Scotia. You get 5 cents back. The other 5 cents goes towards the municipalities and their diversion rates. So that's controversial, as you can tell. Whoa.
Hi, one of the things I understand in Nova Scotia is a goal of not having anything go into the ground other than inerts. How successful have you been in accomplishing that? And is it true that there's a strong source separation program that's geared to high quality, highest and best use, but you also have at the landfill, as part of the landfill, a MRF to get out the toxics and the recyclables and to digest the organics?
When you ban organics, you're really talking about, plastics and metal and glass are inert. You can bury that, but certainly organics and household hazardous waste are where you want to go. We're not leaders in household hazardous waste EPR, and we have certainly HHW depots. They're getting some of that material out, but lots of it still goes in the landfill. We are certainly, from an inert perspective, diverting a lot of the organics. We still have a ways to go. It's not all rosy and apple pies, and we still have work to do. I'm not sure if I completely answered this question. Yep.
You have a wonderful place to visit. Do you have any tourism challenges, seasonality?
Yeah, we have student challenges, we have tourism challenges. In Halifax, when you have a public source separation bin, you have to have organics, and certainly lots of contamination. That's why the design is so important. So it's not all perfect, for sure. We have, my kids work at, I'm not going to say the brand, and they have public source separation bins, and some of that material makes its way into the garbage because of cross-contamination. We're not down to the nitty-gritty level. I mean, we've done a lot of work with the standards and a lot of promotion, the education, the money that goes to municipalities. They promote it in the public bins. A lot of work in that area. Still a hefty challenge. Still work to do. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a question about your clear bags. I want to know who pays for the bags, how you distribute those to the residents and or businesses, and do you provide bio bags to all the residents
Where are you?
for composting? All the way over here.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah.
Believe it or not, in Nova Scotia, ironically, we don't have a bin system for recycling. We actually have, you put your blue, we have containers in a blue bag you have to buy, paper in a blue bag generally, but you can use grocery bags in Halifax, which is 50% of the population, garbage in a clear bag, organics in the cart, and cardboard folded up. But yeah, the residents have to pay for those bags, and certainly that becomes a point of contention at times. Biodegradable bags, for the most part, are not accepted in most composting systems in the province. Paper bags is the choice. There are a couple of composting facilities that do it, but for reasons that we've done some testing on this, and generally, the bags just don't break down as quickly as the organic putrescible material, and it looks like plastic, so it's more of a visual thing than it is anything else when you're marketing the compost. And you can't tell the difference between the plastic and the biodegradable bags, and that's a whole other discussion and the challenge with that. Thank you.
Thank you. That was an excellent presentation. I'm going to be introducing our next speaker. It is a true pleasure to introduce you to Heidi Sanborn. Heidi is a trailblazer. She's tenacious, she's passionate. She's been working in our industry for over the past 25 years to move the dial in support and success for EPR and product stewardship, both at the local, state, national, and international level. Her tenacity, her drive is contagious. She makes people accountable. It's wonderful to get to work with her. It's a wonderful opportunity. She's the type of person that doesn't let me be non-responsive. She will call me and email me until I respond. And that's amazing, and that's what we need. We need leaders and inspirational leaders. Heidi is somebody, when I saw her speak several years ago at a SWANA conference, I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up around movie stars. I never wanted, signatures or anything like that. When I saw Heidi speak, I couldn't wait to go get her signature and get to know her because she's just so amazing and cool. So it is a pure pleasure to introduce Heidi up to the stage. Thank you.
Good morning. So good to be here, and thank you again, Colleen. That was so funny and awesome, and really, I'm so excited to be here after 10 years of running California Product Stewardship Council. We're all here together because now we have to figure out what we're going to do the next 10 years. So I thought I'd title this the perfect storm that California needs to be a beacon of hope. And I should figure out how to work this. Let's see. So, every time I come to these conferences, I feel like we're at a family reunion, and we're just having a blast. But we do a lot of really important work here. Everybody here has a very important role to play, and it's just an honor to be part of this group. I think all of us have felt this year that there's a lot of stuff that we could be bummed out about, right? But when we come into this room, we got to fill each other's tanks up. And one of the things we're excited to celebrate, as we said, is the 10th anniversary of this organization, because I'll tell you, thank you. It wasn't easy to start a nonprofit in the worst economy of our lifetime. And to do it, to go up against the industry groups that have a lot more money than we do, and to change an entire paradigm, it takes time, it takes thought, and it takes collaboration, it takes an army. And all of you are part of that army. So we'll celebrate that tonight, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. But why did we form the Product Stewardship Council? Basically is because the local governments were done with the disposal bans without management plans. Thanks to Evan Edgar. No ban without a plan. DTC was banning batteries and all kinds of stuff from disposal, and local governments were like, wait a minute, I don't have the money, I don't know how we're gonna do this, we don't want 500 different messages to the public, it just doesn't make any sense, it's not cost effective. So they looked at the producer responsibility model as a policy model that might be able to help get us out of this quagmire. So again, there's a lot going on that we're not happy about, but we have absolutely no time to sit around and mull over it. The news is what it is, and our diversion rate has gone down. So what do? We double down. We double down. But the question is, what are we going to double down on? The true definition of madness is when we keep repeating the same action over and over and expect a different result. That was Einstein. So doing what we've been doing has worked to a point, but now we've got to be bold and try some new, bigger policy approaches. And some of these are going to be hard. But there's lots of good news. We've all done a lot of good work. Hundreds of jurisdictions are taking action on food packaging, on bags, on medicines, needles, et cetera. The governor's office and CalRecycle are amazing. We couldn't be more grateful for their amazing leadership. We've got statewide EPR laws now and product stewardship laws. We've got 8 local laws passed. We have a Supreme Court that actually rejected the pharma complaint that the Alameda ordinance was illegal. That's a game changer. I mean, that changed the rules. Every one of you, all the local governments can pass an ordinance making the producers pay for any product that has a public health impact. Do you know that if you watch the video of the hearing, the lawyers were actually, the guy who actually did the hanging Chad thing for Bush, he was their lawyer. And he was like, do you know if you let this happen, like every county in the whole country is gonna do ordinances? And they're like, yeah, it might happen. So get over it. So that was huge. And we also defeated what? Their opposition to try and preempt you. AB 45. Congratulations, you killed the preemption bill last year. That was huge too. We've got a state law to achieve 75%. That's going to keep the pressure on. And public surveys are showing us that the polluter pays model is what the public wants. So there's lots of really good news for us to springboard from. So there's no time to despair. It's time, and it's a perfect storm for producer responsibility and some bold policy approaches that we might not have been able to try before. We cannot continue to just keep pushing on local governments to fix everything at the back end. There just isn't enough money and there's not enough resources, and it's not really that efficient. So we've got organics and packaging and textiles and bulky items and green products and all of that we need to get to the next 50%. But at some point, producers have to help us with green design, and they have to help pay for these programs if we can't get good markets. They have to help. So the last waste characterization study in California shows where our big ticket items are. It's food, lumber, composite paper, bulky items, organics, textiles, as Bob mentioned. It's a lot of the same stuff. So we know what we got to go after, and we got to start moving fast. But there's a lot of power, and all the people in this room, local governments, CalRecycle, NGOs, and private sector partners, we're stronger together. And I will tell you, watching what's going on in the Capitol day after day, that the opponents to these tougher approaches that are tough politically to pass, this is what they do in order to kill the stuff we want. They move in a pack, and I'm not exaggerating, literally a pack, and I call them the Italian Suit Brigade. And they walk around, and they lobby, and they do all kinds of, they'll say almost anything, really, to get their way. It's kind of shocking. They give a lot of money to campaigns. And I hope all of you know your elected official, and they know you by your first name. And they know to call you if they have a solid waste question, or a question on recycling, or what's happening with the carpet bill. Should I support this? If you guys aren't active with your local elected officials, who will then become the next state elected officials, who then become the people in Congress, and then sometimes get elected to president, it's a missed opportunity. We have to all become very political, even though we're not party affiliated. I mean, at least we are apolitical as an organization. But we have to be political and smart. They're also good social engineers. In Los Angeles, in order to successfully delay right now the LA County Ordinance on Medicines and Sharps, they actually hired, as far as we know, we were told from people in the industry, every single lobbyist that existed in Los Angeles. They hired almost every PR firm as well that wasn't conflicted out. And there's a lot conflicted out because Pharma does a lot of commercials. And they actually called senior citizens in LA and told them that their ordinance was going to skyrocket drug prices. And then sent them a model letter with typos and everything to send in. And we outed them in the LA Times. But this is the kind of stuff, they actually are good at getting people who should support these things to oppose them. So this is where you have to keep your eyes open, talk to your public, make sure you're keeping your fingers on the pulse of what's going on. Because before you know it, people are confused and they're voting for the wrong things that are actually detrimental to their own best interests. We do have to get to the source of waste, and that is on the producer product side, we have to get to the producers. So they can have voluntary programs and we can have mandatory, what we call extended producer responsibility programs. And California is hope for the entire US right now. We're seeing a dismantling of the EPA from the inside out, and everybody's looking to California for hope out there. So no other state has the power that we have to drive market change because we're 12% of the entire population of this country. If we change something in California, industries actually change the entire system to comply. So we have a much greater impact than, let's say, a Vermont or a much smaller state. And a lot of people call us crazy, but I say we're crazy like a fox. Because we will and we have created green jobs and we're creating a green circular economy. But it's important that we not just talk about it. We need to do it. We need to be the beacon of light for everyone around the country right now. So changing to the circular economy is hard, but for the love of country, for the love of the planet, we've got to do it. It's hard and we're going to do it anyway. CalRecycle has had the strategic directive now for years to do cradle-to-cradle producer responsibility and develop relationships with stakeholders that result in producer financed and managed systems. So we've got the policy We just need to start execution on more of these policies. The OECD, the Organization for Economic and Cooperation and Development, they define EPR as an environmental policy approach in which producers' responsibility for a product is extended to the post-consumer stage of a product's life cycle. And the reason for that is not only to shift responsibility away from the governments to do everything, but to provide incentives for the producers to incorporate environmental considerations in the design of their products, because it's always follow the money. The responsibility of the producer can be physical, financial, and or informational. And according to the OECD, and this is extremely important, the internalization of external environmental costs is considered a fundamental aspect of environmental policy design. Why is that? Because when they can externalize the costs onto all of you and the taxpayers and the garbage rate payers, they don't pay. And what is the business language? It's money. They are corporations, and they have a fiduciary responsibility to shareholders to make money. Unless they're a B Corp, they do not answer to people and planet. They only answer to profit. So, what have we been doing about this the last 10 years? Well, we've been pretty busy, and we have great websites, and we did a lot of education about EPR. We've got product pages, we've done thousands of presentations, we've helped pass resolutions with all of you in local governments. If you don't have a resolution, we'd love to help you get one. We've incorporated zero waste goals and EPR in the same resolution. We've helped pass legislation, some with industry, some without them. Is there a tornado or something? Is there a bus? We aren't going to blow away, are we? An Amber Alert? Oh. Is there a little girl we can get or something? What's going on? Does that stay on very long? Somebody find this child? Okay. All right, that's, okay, very good. Hopefully the child is fine. We don't want to wish, I mean, seriously, that always concerns me when Amber Alerts come on. I've got it on my phone. For thermostats, so one of the things we did was help pass the first true producer responsibility bill in California. It's about Mercury Thermostats, and people think, it's not sexy, Mercury Thermostats, but those things have a lot of mercury. Those ampules are full of mercury, and a teaspoon can contaminate an entire lake. It's the largest pool of mercury in the public's hands, and we're literally collecting less than 30% of it. So when the Thermostat Recycling Corporation didn't do a very good job, what did we do? We actually designed a competing stewardship plan, and I have very good news for you. We got the results last week. It's on the DTSC website, and they got 8% recycling rate last year for the thermostats they were supposed to collect, and we got 182% in 3 months. So, thank you. We're very proud of that. And so our message out to the producers is, if we give you control of the program, you better do it, because if you don't, we're going to show you how it's done. And then, that's just how it's going to be. Because we knew what needed to be done, and we were talking to them about it for the last 8 years. We want to be helpful. We want these to work. But if they refuse to really let them work, we have to prove the point. Carpet. Now, do we think this was a perfect bill? Absolutely not. We helped pass it with our noses plugged. But the reason we did it was why? Who else has this tiger by the tail? No one. We are the only ones in the world that have the carpet industry talking about recycling or source reduction or green design or anything. And I want to say thanks to our friends at Interface and Tarkett, because they have taken the lead, and DSM Niaga, to help us fix this bill with AB 1158 this year. We need to get it done, and we have industry leaders who are helping us do that. And they are here today, and we're going to thank some of them tonight. So, but the good news is sometimes you have to see incremental change, but we are the only ones that they've killed all the other bills in the country so far. I want to thank Paint Care, Jeremy and his team. So I worked on that for many, many years. We now have over 800 drop-off sites, and I think we started with like 50, and they were mostly household hazardous waste programs, and I know many of you have saved millions of dollars from this program, so thank you on that. Bye Bye Mattress, thanks to Mike O'Donnell and his team. Probably the smoothest rollout we've had so far of the stewardship programs. Thank you for that to Mike and his team. Are we perfect yet? No, we're still working on it. There's still things that need to be done, but these are important things that take time. And a state the size of California is like a country. It really is hard to do, and it takes some time. We've created awards to help thank businesses for taking the leadership on these programs. This is Sam with Flame King, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute, the refillable 1-pound propane cylinders. We've partnered with our friends at Call to Recycle. Is Sean here? Always appreciate Sean Burchell and Call to Recycle. They have actually helped us put out these boxes that are co-collected of not just the rechargeables, but alkalines. We have collected 25 tons in partnering with some of your local jurisdictions. And we're proving the point that if the producers can pay and they can do these kinds of programs, they work. We've got to make it easy for people. And this is our Refuel Your Fun campaign. We created this a few years ago because of Sam coming to us and saying, I redesigned the 1-pound propane cylinder to be refillable. So most of you probably go camping or use these for grills or, lawn equipment. There's so many different things, scooters, all kinds of stuff now. And these can be refilled for 12 years. And a California company redesigned them to be refillable. So we actually have 7 of them. And of course, you don't want to take this on a plane, so if you're flying, don't try to get one. But if you are driving and you would like one, you can like our Refuel Your Fun Facebook page, and Jordan is gonna, the first 7 people who like it will get one of these for free at the end of the presentation. So, and we'd love to have your help promoting that campaign, because to us it's a win-win. When industries are now coming to us and saying, can you help us? We want to change the paradigm of our entire industry. We're like so grateful, and we just want to help them. Because then if we help them, others will come too. And these are a huge problem for the parks. That's a pile at Yosemite. They spend about $28,000 a year just managing these cylinders. Again, they last for 12 years, so hopefully everybody can help promote them. We'll all help you promote them. Jordan Wells is our awesome project manager, campaign manager over there, and you can talk to her after the presentation. And there's Jordan, and we actually got in Sports Basement in the Bay Area. They've got 8 stores, and they're now giving their basementers free exchanges. So people will buy the refillable, and then they bring it back for a free exchange full. And that's what they've decided to do for their customers. And we're starting to collect them in Tehama, and that cart actually was filled up in 2 weeks. And we're filling them up every week or 2. There are so many that were going into the trash, and I don't know if you've heard, but there have been big MRF fires lately because of these 1-pound propane cylinders getting into the trash and being compacted. We've also done the Don't Rush to Flush, Meds in the Bin, We All Win program. We've won awards for this. We've got, 60 or so bins out now across the state. We just finished with our last 8 bins in Monterey. And this, we've collected many, many tons of medicines. Just in Santa Clara, in their 29 bins, we've collected 4.5 tons of medicines. And these get flushed a lot if people are left to, because they're told by FDA still to flush. And we've done a great little whiteboard video. So if you want to, I wish I had time to play it, it's very cute. And we can customize it and put your logos at the end. And now we're doing one also for the Refuel Your Fun campaign. So we're able to share all of this, and if you can help us share it, we'll be happy to customize it for you. But really, Alameda is I think the biggest win we've had in the last 10 years. Supervisors Nate Miley on the left of the yellow tie and Supervisor Carson on the right, they were the bulldogs. Mr. Miley led the charge on meds, and then on needles was Supervisor Carson. He had somebody in his district who was remodeling and opened the wall and had literally thousands of needles fall out of the wall. Because when people don't know what to do, what do? Well, whatever crafty thing they can come up with. So they put a hole in the wall and started disposing of their needles in the wall. So yeah, you just can't make this stuff up. When we did surveys of what people were doing with their meds, they literally said, we self-incinerate. We put it on the barbecue. And we're like, what? And one person says, oh, I buried it out by the back fence post, and I watched the squirrels dig it up and run away. And we're just like, what? I tell you, it's why I drink before noon some days. I don't know what's going on. But these gentlemen are awesome, and if it weren't for these elected officials, we would really be in a spot. So we want to really all be grateful for our elected officials, local, state, and federal, who are willing to stand up for these tough fights. And we got in the news, the Wall Street Journal, because Pharma was saying silly things, like, no, there's no problem and all that. And so we said, no, yeah, there's a problem. And then we went to they filed lawsuit against Alameda and said this was a violation of the Commerce Clause, Interstate Commerce Clause. And a lot of good things came out of that, actually, because what I consider this is the legal rules of the road of EPR have been laid. So the federal court did, if you ever want to watch wonk television, this was it. The 45 minutes these three really smart judges debated with these two lawyers. And they came down with a 3-0 ruling for Alameda. And unfortunately, the pharmaceutical industry, instead of just saying, okay, yeah, we'll try and help this national epidemic, they decided to fight all the way to the US Supreme Court. And the good news is the court denied hearing the case, which is huge. This is landmark, but again, it's not for every product. So I just want to make sure everybody's clear. If you decide you want to go after diapers, I'm not sure they're going to say that's a health and safety impact. If you go after medicines and needles, they definitely will. So just be careful, and I'll talk to you about it if you're interested in taking on a product. I'm pretty sure everything hazardous would qualify, but be careful going forward, but you do have now the right to go forward. So the California counties who have led in this are on the screen. These are the ones who have passed EPR ordinances on medicines and or sharps, and I want to congratulate Tim Goncharoff, the new CRRA board member from Santa Cruz, for the first in the country, both medicines and sharps passed in Santa Cruz. Yay, Tim. And the fun thing about this is they actually pay you to oversee them. Isn't that nice? So if your budget's tight, this is a great option because they actually have to pay the governments, and this is the first check to Alameda for $10,000 from the Med Project to pay them for the program. And the great news is the bins are out. They're doing one-day events, but we're also getting, I think we have 120 bins or so in now, and these are the Med Project bins. They are electronic and will send a signal that they're full, so they're automatically emptied, very easy. And then we want to thank Walgreens. We're going to thank them tonight at the awards ceremony. We had a press conference yesterday here at the Walgreens in San Diego. But they've put 600 of these medication bins voluntarily in their stores at the 24-hour stores around the country. And I think we have like 54 here in California. But they've collected over 72 tons by the end of April. Isn't that crazy? It's awesome. So we have a huge chain that's leading the way, and we want to thank them and get them tons of press, but our hope is that we can get them to expand to all 7,200 Walgreens. And we've taken on this needles and medicines issue for a while. We've not been able to get them passed at the state level, but this is a City of Burbank team. This is 7 months worth of needles that they have hand sorted off the sort line. They had 10% of their staff stuck, 2 of 20 people. That, to me, is criminal that we are exposing our people and our industry to this. And I really, really hope we can all come together and get something done this next year on medicines and needles at the state level. But all of you doing the local work is what's pushing them to come to the table and talk at the state level. So please, keep it up. If you want to do an ordinance, please let us know and we'll help you do it. And we want to be very grateful for Senator Hannah Beth Jackson out of Santa Barbara. She's a rock star. We've given her awards. She's the one that's held the bar high on EPR for medicines. And she was very frustrated when we had this 5 pages of support for the pharma bill and then only 5 opposition, which are associations of medicine manufacturers. And we still couldn't get out of the second committee. They give a lot of money to campaigns. Our lobbyist says he thinks it's every single legislator is taking money from pharma. So this is a tough lift, and Senator Jackson then got frustrated and said, well, I'm sending a letter to all the counties to tell them, please do an ordinance so we can get attention at the state level. She also signed on and worked with Assembly members Ting and Gray, bless you, and we got a state audit report done, and they said, yes, we should have a state-based solution. But EPR is hard. And we're like, yeah, no kidding. We've been trying. Yes, it is hard. It doesn't mean it's not worth doing. So the thing is we are all going to have to come together and fight on this because until we're finished with this fight, pharma will fight every other bill. They opposed the battery bill because they were mad about the pharma bill. So that's literally where we're at. We've got to finish this. The Board of Pharmacy, unfortunately, came out with a rule, and they're trying to preempt you too. The Board of Pharmacy regulations actually said that if you've passed mandatory retail take-back on drugs, the pharmacist can still say no. So I'm daring them in Santa Cruz County to do that to Tim, because I don't think his county's going to appreciate that. Because he made it mandatory for retailers to participate. So we'll see how that goes. But the other thing we've been doing is we've been getting so much press and so much support from across the country. People are calling us and we're like, well, we can't do that. We're California. So our board said it's time. So we formed a national C4, meaning we have unlimited lobbying capacity. And that's what we needed to do. So thank you. So we formed the National Stewardship Action Council. We're going to advocate for a circular economy. We helped Chicago pass an EPR ordinance on medicines. We're helping other counties right now and other states, which will remain unnamed at this point in time. But we'd love for you to follow us. We've got Facebook pages, et cetera. And we're working with our colleagues like at the Texas Product Stewardship Council. We signed an MOU with them, and they're helping us promote Refuel Your Fund in Texas now. So there's ways for us all to duplicate the good work we've done here in California. And our priorities for this at this point in time, at least through next year, are to expand Refuel Your Fund, because it's voluntary, it's working. We should make that the paradigm change on the 1 pound propane gas cylinders. We need to pass the carpet cleanup bill, and we need to do it this year. That program has gained 8% recycling in 8 years. Does anybody think 1% recycling increase a year is a good program? I don't. We got a long way to go. This is heavy. It's 99% plastic. It's got a huge greenhouse gas footprint. There's lots of reasons we need to get it back, and there's lots of jobs to be created. We've got to get LA County to pass the ordinance on medicines and sharps, and we think we can do it. We'll be getting very busy on that very soon, and get the statewide solution also. But I want to thank Craig Hampel. We're going to give him an award tonight too, because he's awesome in Burbank. He's been out there testifying and fighting for his workers and saying it's not right that needles are coming across the sort line like this and sticking my people. So we're going to stay on it until we get it done. But I'm going to talk very briefly for a minute about packaging, because that is a big part of what we've got to get to 75% and beyond. It's a big issue on a whole lot of levels. Water's one of them. So on the right is the picture in Long Beach after or before a rainstorm, and then of course the one on the left is after with all the packaging. And I think this just turns our stomach, right? I mean, this isn't how it's supposed to be. So there's lots of different ways to get this stuff out. There's bans, there's producer responsibility, there's hybrids. Let's not fight over exactly, what is the right, we're a family, we have a family reunion here. Let's have our debates here, but when we finally come to agreement and we're going forward, we have to back each other up. The industries we are up against are well-funded, they're not very nice, and they're gonna come. They're gonna come, and as Bob mentioned, they came in Nova Scotia, they're gonna fight here, and we have to do better than what we're doing now, because we're going backwards. So we'll figure it out, and we'll be the beacon of hope. But just because one of the things we do is research and just sharing information. We're not saying this is the right way at all. We're just saying here's some facts. So in the Czech Republic, in their packaging EPR system between 2002 and 2014, you can see how much recycling in packaging they have increased, between glass, plastic, overall paper, et cetera. The trends are all up. Spain, same thing. Ireland, same thing. I could go through the entire EU, and that's the way it is. So it's not that there's one right way. Let's cherry pick the best of the best for California. Let's do our research. Let's talk about facts. But at the end of the day, we've got some tough policies we got to get done in order to get to 75 by 2020. So we got to move. And I just want to say one thing about local recycling. People have said that local recycling will be devastated. And I can assure you it probably could be. So the devil is in the details. Everybody's got to pay attention to these laws and read them for yourself. Don't just say repeat what we're saying. Read them. If you like it, support it. But we're going to need everybody kind of working towards a goal. And I can say that we're at the place now we're actually getting on NBC Nightly News. This is recently on Blue Apron. And I said again, the customers have a role too to not want all this packaging and tell the manufacturers no. So, mission-aligned Army to-do list. Get political. Go to town halls. Know your legislators. Attend fundraisers and give money to the people who are doing things. You can do it personally, even though you can't do it maybe organizationally. Pass local ordinances. That's where the power is. Preach to a new choir. We need more people and a bigger army. Help make this issue a higher priority in the media. You can do that with getting op-eds, getting your elected officials to write about it, and reframe the issues if you feel like it's not working. So if we're talking about, should we talk about straws and EPS, or maybe we should talk about fast food industry? That's what Tim did. He took the whole fast food industry on and got it all managed out of fast food. You can pass a resolution, get your policy undocumented. You can support our programs and campaigns, and then activate all the groups that you know of that are working together. Fund one of us at least. Go out there and speak up. And I'm very proud of our board. I want to thank our board. After 10 years, we've worked so hard, and they are just awesome, and I feel like the luckiest executive director in the world, honestly. So thank you. And to Lynn for 10 years. Where's Lynn? Lynn is retiring, and we're very happy for her, but we're very sorry to lose one of the best people we've ever had in this industry. So Lynn, thank you for everything, personally and professionally. So Colleen's coming, so I'm going to just say that we have a celebration cup that for the first 150 people that come get a drink today at our celebration party after the awards, you'll get one of these anniversary cups. It's a clean canteen reusable, and you get to keep it. And it'll be full of something. We're going to give you a drink ticket. But it's only to the first 150 people that come to the awards ceremony, because we want you all to be there so you can help us celebrate with the award winners and talk to them about how we can help these great businesses continue to lead. So thank you for all you do. And I would just say to end that it is a marathon, not a sprint. And don't look for your dreams to come true. Look to become true to your dreams. Together, we are a beacon of hope for the country. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Can get me teared up.
Well, the reason I'm teary is because this was a hard 10 years. This was really hard. And for all of you who've helped us, just know how much we appreciate you, too. Thank you.
So we are actually at our lunch break, but I think let's field 1 to 2 questions, and then Heidi's going to be here today, so please come see her and ask your other questions.
Gotcha, Tim.
Is this an opportunity for us to align with organizations we normally don't, like CASA and some of the others on the med and pharmaceutical takebacks in Monterey? We're not on the state water system. We're going to have to be making renewable water from renewable power with our partners next door at the sanitation department. And I wondered if this is an opportunity to get our neighbors, which a lot of us have, to align with this in terms of battling back Big Pharma, because in our community, we're putting renewable water out in the fields for agriculture. Mm-hmm. We're going to be using that for our folks to drink. And I just wonder if this is not an alignment for folks outside that we normally do not make partnerships with to go and do that.
Yeah, we should all be looking for the strange bedfellows mix, because every time we go into an elected official, if we say the business is with us, or like when we were just working on the carpet bill, when we said Interface is with us, Target is with us, they went, oh, okay. Because that shows them that there's division on that side. So the key is we can't be divided on our side anymore. We have to be aligned and all going in the same direction, because they are completely aligned, and that Italian Supergate is out marching around opposing everything we're trying to do. So yes, look for those strange bedfellows. Look for different groups. Think about, we get the doctors in Monterey getting very supportive. The water district should be supportive. anybody you can think of that's related, the drug abuse prevention community, obviously, even the mental health community. I can't really see without these bright lights, so
Heidi,
Hi.
thank you for that fabulous presentation and all your work. When you think about the upcoming battles with packaging and the current battle with carpet, can you comment on the disposal via incineration threat that's coming up?
Yes, so one of the big things, Europe says we put incineration and disposal, and it's the same. In Europe, they feel that it's better to do incineration to energy before you put it into the landfill. So in their hierarchy, it's a higher, better use of the material than just disposing of it in a landfill. We've been able to stop incinerators in California now for 20 or so years. The pressure to build them is going to come back. So what everybody has to be very aware of is, one, there is not one type of burning. I want to be very clear of that. My dad's a postdoc in clinical chemistry, and I've been lectured on this many, many times. In fact, he tells me saying that it's not a high energy or hot burn is actually not right, because every feedstock has its own perfect burn temperature. And some things need a high heat in order to have a complete combustion, other things don't. So we have to be very careful about our language on this stuff, but know that there are people out there who want to say we're doing landfill diversion. It's better to burn carpet than coal. It's the Blue Sky Initiative, for clean coal. No such thing as clean coal. We have to be very careful and look for this. We do not support burning per se at our organization, although some people have accused us of that. I want to make this very clear. We have Covanta on the national board because they've been helping us with medicine disposal. Many of you could not have medicine disposal if we did not have free combustion from Covanta. Now, do we think combustion of medicines is the best thing in the world? No. But what else do we do? Flush them? Throw them in the landfill? They tell us right now all we can do is destroy them on site. Guess what that means to hospice workers? They flush them. So sometimes there's layers to these problems, and we have to kind of work through the different layers. But just know that I am afraid, and I agree with Miriam, they're going to be pushing for burning, and we have to be careful. And we also have to look for controls on these bills to make sure we know exactly where stuff is going. Because right now, it's been really hard to figure out where the carpet's going and what they're doing with it, and that shouldn't be that hard, because it's public fee money. That was not even an internalized cost bill. So thank you for bringing that up. Anything else? Okay.
So everyone, the lunch break, it's our last hour at our exhibit hall that's open, so please head over there. Then we have a members meeting at 1 p.m. Thank you.